We've been hearing the debate for as long as we've been interested in such things. Our founding principles versus a living Constitution. But here's the truth. Those who espouse a living Constitution actually favor a dead Constitution, one that dies the death of 1,000 cuts with the whims of each succeeding generation and their ever-revising interpretations of the supreme law of the land. And the current government has relegated the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments to little more than roadkill on its superhighway to the fundamental transformation of America. Freedom of speech and freedom of the press have been effortlessly abridged in the AP and James Rosen scandals. The right to keep and bear arms has been demonized in the bully pulpit of the administration and its allies. And the prohibition on unreasonable search and seizure has been all but obliterated. Recently, it occurred to me that constitutionalists should adopt a new strategy for this ongoing debate. Instead of arguing against a living Constitution, we should counter by saying we actually agree, and then explain why. Because the Constitution already is and always has been a living document. Leftists gloss over the Constitution's own provision for its revision because it actually represents by itself the most powerful argument against the leftist view of the living Constitution. Revisions require the assent of 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states, assuring broad agreement on major issues. Will the left argue against such broad consensus? We've ratified 27 such amendments, including 10 in the Bill of Rights. If the left wants to argue honestly about a living Constitution, they must first make the case that the very process of amending the document should be streamlined. And that would require a new constitutional convention and a new constitution, which is what the left really desires. But there's another reason for asserting that the Constitution is already a living document, and that is exemplified in the word unreasonable in the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures. After all, that word not only allows but requires the three branches of government, not to mention people of varying political stripes, to debate and ultimately determine what is and is not unreasonable, since it's a subjective concept. This is also evidence that the founders understood that the nation would evolve, and they hardly intended to produce a constitution so specific and inflexible that future generations would be hamstrung by its provisions. Of course, the left constantly engages in exaggerated forms of flexible interpretation with its ever-expanding use of the Commerce Clause and the General Welfare Clause in the document's preamble to justify all manner of government activism. But the corollary is that inflexible language is just as clearly intended in other places in the document, such as the Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not much wiggle room there. You cannot, with any degree of intellectual honesty, embrace the obvious flexibility in some clauses and reject the obvious inflexibility in others. Yes, we should consider an entirely new approach to this endless debate about the Constitution. Let us support and celebrate a genuine living Constitution and dare to call out the left for saying living when they really mean dead.